Hello everyone, Maurice here, and today I'm bringing you a video to talk about the parts evolution and how it actually affects Axie Origins. And of course, there will be quite a lot of different aspects. There will be, of course, there's a gameplay, but also really more just about the market, the pace of the meta, but even, just a player mindset. So actually, let's just, of course, get through the gameplay first, or just what utility the parts evolution will have on the Axie Origins. So, yeah, let's just get into it. So the first thing is really about the HP scaling. So as you level up your Axie, so it doesn't have to be evolving. It's really just leveling up. Every time you level up, you actually get 1 HP for your Axie. So this is I would say, a pretty good design, just because then getting to part evolution requires a lot of time, right? It requires 10 levels. And so, sometimes it will just be like, it feels too far, right? Every time you get to part evolution is another 10 level. But whereas getting to one level is relatively easy. So it's really more like a small steps, small goals kind of thing, where you do feel like there is a bit of progression even if you just level up by one level. So I think it's a good design where players will have more immediate, smaller goals to achieve, to at least feel that, oh, there is a bit of progression. But of course, HP scaling is only a small part of it. Having said that, it can be very significant, as you can see here. The HP, if you get to the full max level, which is 60, of course, it's going to take a long time. It will get you additional 71 HP, and that is very significant, effectively like a one energy effect kind of thing. So even at just 20 level, it gets to 423, which is already pretty good, because it require quite a number of charms to actually get to this. So now by leveling up, you already get this, then it kind of saves you PP for other things. But of course, the more important thing is the improvement in the parts itself. When you evolve a particular part, well, for different parts, there are different effects. And yeah, I'm not going to go through everything. You can go into the notes, the official change or patch notes, to see all these changes. I'm just going to highlight really the few that I think are significant. And they actually classified it in kind of four different types of effects, right? So there are the uh, effects improvements, which is not just stat boost. So actually, most of the changes are just stat boost, which I must say, unfortunately, is a bit, I won't say underwhelming, but doesn't really add too much into the gameplay, as it's just really dealing more damage or healing more or shielding more. Having said that, I think this whole thing, right, these effects can change over the seasons as well. So I can see it as another layer where the balancing team can actually, make adjustment and maybe even introduce new mechanics in the future seasons. But for now, 42 effects and effects improvement, but actually in the 42, quite a lot of them are also just numerical changes. So they're not really that many so-called real changes in terms of changes how the game plays or the cards plays in that sense. But it's still good, I think. It's a good step forward, but this is where I think is again more of a progression kind of things, that where yeah, over time then there'll be more changes, hopefully, along the way. Okay, so let's just jump into those changes. So first of all, the effects changes, which I would say the most interesting one, effect improvement. So power cards, I think, yeah, Navaga and Tassos are the ones that really benefits, I feel, because now when you evolve them, they're faster to trigger. So for Navaga, effectively, it goes from 25 to 22 fragments. So it just makes it faster to trigger, maybe even by a turn. And that could be very significant, right? If you able to trigger it earlier by one turn, that might allow you to survive fast enough to actually get your combo going. And for tassels, also similarly, well, the thresholds now go from 300 to 250 if you evolve it. So 250 shield, definitely a lot more achievable. Again, it's similar to Navaga. It could be achieved maybe a turn earlier or something, and that of course will just speeds up the damage. And of course, with the change in Blood Moon and the shortening of the uh, turns for uh, season 7, because it's now capped at 18 turns. So you do want to be able to get this going well faster. So yep, I would say Navaga and Tassos could be potential like priority in terms of evolving compared to other stats boost card. Sakura and Bumpy also get a bit of a buff, but it's a bit underwhelming. It go from 8 to 10, heal or shield. So it's still good, but might not be a priority. Okay, and then we have those unstable, like cards with unstable will improve to banish when it evolves. So that's basically Cointail, and then the draw two, discard two cards. I must say that could be good for the banish, kind of team, but basically like Topaz. But for the other teams, I mean, it doesn't matter as much, I would say. Of course, like one curse card is something, but I don't think it's a priority. I would say stat change might even be better than just one card, but depending on the team and the meta, of course. Okay, and I would say like the class card tutors are one of the biggest change, I must say, in terms of just how the cards will play. Because for all the cards tutors, so for example, like Telescope for Aqua, right? So before, then you have to choose, right? Whether it's initial, then you draw from your draw pile, or if it's not initial, you draw from your discard pile, if I remember correctly, or the other way around, I forgot. But anyway, so the improved version will allow you to be able to, well, you don't need the initial anymore, and it allows you to draw, or I won't say draw, sorry, rather it's just put a card from either the draw pile or discard pile onto the top of your deck or your draw pile, and now it basically allows you to play a card, let's say a very strong card. It could be like Tiny Fan or something, or even just like Leafy or like very like strong cards, or maybe Sandals or something, or Topaz. You play it, and then you can use the class tutor card to then, well, I won't say draw it back, but like put it back to your draw pile right after you play it on the same turn. And I would say that is a very, very strong effect for a certain combo team where, imagine, let's say Tiny Fan, right? You play a Tiny Fan, but then, usually you have to, say, wait for the next deck rotation or something to actually get it back. But now you can just play it, and then you play the Telescope to just get the Tiny Fan back at the top of the draw pile, and then you will draw it again next turn. So I think this could definitely be a big change, and maybe just really special for combo teams. This makes it a lot more consistent for quite a number of strategies. Okay, then we have poison. So poison, a number of changes. Well, not changes really, but more like improvement when you evolve. And of course, the biggest one is reverse heal. So quite a lot of the cards when they evolve, like the poison cards when they evolve, will get reverse heal, which is of course very good because then you can choose. Well, there's a flexibility of choosing between healing or dealing damage to the opponent. And do note that the dealing damage is HP loss as well, so it kind of also take away the Silence Whispers stack as well. So yeah, so that is definitely something that's a big buff. And also by evolving, it actually improves increases the poison stack that's applied as well. So most of them is basically from like 3 to 4 stacks or something. So something roughly from 9 poison stacks to 12 poison stack per card, which is pretty good. So yeah, definitely poison will be looking to evolve the number of cards. The only problem is that you would want to evolve quite a number of cards on each axis in poison, and so it will really have to grind AXP quite a lot more, I would say, just because most of the cards you want to evolve, as opposed to maybe some other teams where some cards it might just be stat boost. Of course, you want to evolve it, but it's not a priority. Whereas for poison, there are quite a number of cards that would be good. It would be very nice to evolve. So that's something to think about. Okay, and then Grass Snake as well. Actually, this one is quite big because it increases the poison on target to 75% as opposed to 50 when you evolve it. So I would say that's another priority if you play that. And finally, Rosa, even though it normally doesn't fit in this, but actually Rosa, when you evolve it, now it gives you 3 poison stack. Of course, it hits twice, so effectively it's like 6. Well, 3 on 2 different targets usually. And this actually could go very well in poison just because, of course, it adds the poison stacks, but also the sleep actually helps quite a lot as well, because Rosa have the ability to basically sleep two different axes if you hit correctly. So yeah, I think Rosa might actually, well, evolved Rosa might actually fit into some poison teams. Okay, and this roll star, yeah, it's just a numerical change, but I think it could be quite significant, from 90 to 105 in terms of the threshold. So yeah, basically 15 increase in terms of, you can think of as effect. So it can basically one shot at 105 HP axis. So that's pretty good. Yeah, something that's, yeah, probably for some teams might, be a target for, or priority for evolving. And then, okay, Innocent Lamb, it's well, interesting in terms of evolving because it gives a 10% boost in terms of stat to a copied card. But of course, remember that now for Innocent Lamb, if you copy the card, it doesn't have the effect of the charm. And of course, there are a lot of cards that say Cottontail or something where like the stats don't really matter. So actually, for Innocent Lamb, it really depends like on the card that it copies. But most of the time, the 10% stat might not be that good compared to other evolving abilities. So yeah, but it's interesting to note, I must say, especially things like Strawberry Shortcake could be good. Of course, it doesn't get the charm, and so as imagine as the base 50, it'll become 55. So that's like, another 15 damage, which could be quite good. So, but of course, very niche in terms of use case. So not every Axie would want to evolve Innocent Lamb, or at least not at the priority. Okay, then Mosquito. Mosquito is very good, I think, once it's evolved, is because it now applies 3 poison and 3 bleed to the enemy. So when it targets the enemy, it applies 3 poison and 3 bleed, which is pretty crazy, because it basically already it remove 6 cleanser stacks in one go with this effect. And of course, you can put some charms to add more debuff or dispel, and it can basically remove like 9 or even more cleanser stacks just with one card. So this is where my Mosquito might be, or evolved Mosquito might be a tech against, yeah, against cleanser. So, and to be honest, even it's not against cleanser. The 3 poison and 3 bleed in itself is also already pretty good, I must say. So yeah, Mosquito I think is a priority in terms of evolving. Okay, and then Square Teeth. Square Teeth again, right? Yeah, so it's always a zero cost attack card. Is always interesting because it's the only zero cost attack card. And now, if you evolve it, it goes from 50 to 70 in terms of the bonus damage from consuming shield. So effectively, you can, or at the base level, you can deal 42 damage, but with zero energy, given that you have shield. Given that you have 60 shield. So I think it is, pretty good for a zero cost card, and it's getting back to the level of how it used to be. I feel, of course, it's still not as strong as before, well, pre-nerfed, but still, I think this could be quite significant because it's effectively a 12 damage buff. Okay, then we have Leafy and Tri-Spike. So Leafy, basically when you evolve it, it just go back to the pre-nerf version where you only need 3 leaves as opposed to 4 leaves to get the 150 damage. So yeah, Leafy team would definitely want to do that. Having said that, if leaf stack might not be a problem, then this actually doesn't really do as much. Just because, let's say, if you have any other ways to have gain leaves and the 3 to 4 leaves doesn't really make a difference, then yeah, this might not be too much of a priority. Tri-Spike is the one that I really want to talk about because Tri-Spike is, yeah, pretty big change when you evolve it. So basically what happens is that when you evolve it, the scaling, the extra bonus damage scaling, goes from 1 to 1.5 damage per spike or blood spike, and that could be very significant, especially when you have a lot of blood spike stacks. So even if you have like 10 blood spike, well, yeah, 10 blood spike stacks, it will make a 15 damage difference already compared to before, and that's because usually you of course just deal 10 more damage per hit, right? Remember, Tri-Spike do 3 hits, but now you do, instead of do 10, you do 15, so that's basically 5 per hit, and that's why it's 15 difference. Even if you only have 10 blood spike, of course, usually if you have like 20 or 30 blood spike, it'll make even more higher difference. The 20 plus spike will do like what 30 damage difference already. So I can imagine like the evolved tri spike for sure should be one of the priority in terms of evolving, especially for like teams that rely on tri spike for damage. Definitely something to look out for. And carrots is another one I think that could be something to look out for because it gets first of all a buff of from 60 to 65 attack. Yeah, at the base level when you evolve it. And of course, the scaling also increases in terms of damage, so it gets plus 8 attack when healed by more than 8, or more equal to 8 HP. And the cap also increases to 120 bonus attack. Of course, the cap is probably going to be quite hard to get to. Having said that, though, now that there are other effects that are buffed in terms of healing, like say Shiitake or even just like reverse heal cards that give you flexibility. So there are a lot more heal cards that get buffed effectively. So maybe healing is not as difficult, and yeah, you can really get to pretty high damage with carrots at the late game. So I would say this is going to be similar to how Tiny Dino is going to work, but maybe even stronger if you do a lot of healing. But of course, the other thing about Carrot is that it does gain you a fragment, so it doesn't have to all in for healing. It's just the fragment in itself could also be pretty good. Okay, then let's move on to the next category, which is plus 10 stack. So a lot of the one cost single attack card or doesn't have the attack, single attack or single heal or single shield card will get a plus 10 boost in terms of the stats when you evolve it. So um, I'm not going to highlight everything, but I'm going to highlight, I guess, the odd ones out in a way. So there are some two cost cards that also get this kind of plus 10 treatment, and Sponge is one, right, where the AoE shield get plus 10, which is, I would say, pretty good. And the other significant one, I think Strawberry Shortcake is definitely one that to look out for because plus 10 um, definitely feels good because you usually will get the full 30 plus 30 value because you get the shortcake, and of course you get two strawberries that scales with the plus 10 as well. So definitely it's going to add up, and yeah, getting plus 30 value is pretty good. Of course, it's remind that it is a two cost card, so effectively it's a plus 15 per energy. And the other one is Gila. So Gila, I would say, is a very good card already in Poison, and now with a plus 10 with Evolve Gila, it just feels better. So again, the only problem is that for Poison, you might want to actually evolve other cards first before Gila, but still, Gila is definitely one to look out for as well. Okay, then other cards like okay, so Piranha and Razorbite, of course, it scales with the damage. So let's say Piranhas like scale the stealing with unblock damage, whereas Razorbite heals 50% of the unblock damage. Of course, then if you increase by 10, then you get more than 10 just because of the scaling. Okay, Rise similarly, right? Now that it's changed, well, it's had this additional effect of having a plus 10% damage per cunning, and so yeah, imagine you have full stacks, then the plus 10 will become plus 20 effectively. So that's another thing to look out for. Okay, then we have shiitake and clover. So these two, of course, the first thing is that when you heal, the heal stats increases by 10, and that just means the HP of these summons also increase by 10. But yeah, so for clover, I think that's pretty much it. But I think for shiitake, that's an even better effect because remember, this healing from shiitake will scale with the max HP as well. So basically, it will heal for 10 first, and then it will heal another plus 10 AoE when you evolve it, right, compared to the unevolved version. Yeah, so and yeah, I think this could see play in certain teams. Yeah, just because it's just I would say the effects could be very strong, and it is. I think Shiitake will be a priority in terms of evolving. Of course, for those teams that rely on Shiitake for healing. Okay, and then Hotbutt. Hotbutt, I would say, is another card that is priority in terms of healing because Hotbutt is in itself a archetype defining kind of card, and now with plus 10, so now with the changes in burn in Season 7, then basically what happens is that the burn damage is scales with the hotbar stats, and so if you put plus 10 on hotbar, then actually it gives plus 5 to each burn card, and effectively it's plus 10 for each hotbar card just because each hotbar shuffles 2 burns. And yeah, so basically it's another 30 damage. Assuming, of course, the opponent has all 3 axes, which is usually the case if you run a hotbar team. Yep, so definitely big boost as well. So yeah, evolve it if you're running a hotbar team. And finally, in the star as well, of course, it's really more about the reflect damage. And if you have just more shield, then of course it will reflect more. And the reflect actually applies to every other shield card as well. So if you just stack more shield, every single shield card you have is plus 10, then it will of course reflect more damage. Or has the ability to at least reflect more damage. Okay, and then so plus 5. Okay, so the many AoE, multi-hit, or even hybrid cards, right? They have plus 5 stats when you evolve it, and of course, then the more hits you do, then the more significant that plus 5 is. And so Little Owl and Feather Fan, of course, are the ones that stands out. Yeah, Little Owl is really pretty crazy with 1 energy. I imagine it does 6 hit at the full stacks or when you charge it up. Then yeah, effectively it's plus 30 per energy once you evolve it. So yeah, definitely is one to look out for because Little Owl, like Triple Owl teams are already very strong, I would say. Of course, maybe not like the top team, but it's always been there. And yeah, now I think with the evolution, I do feel like there'll be a lot of triple R, high level triple R axes that will sell for very high prices because the plus 5 is the fact is so strong and it is, I would say, pretty significant just because it's effectively a plus 30 damage. So yeah, and even Feather Fan as well. So yeah, so those two for sure will be something to look out for. And I'm just thinking, even from a scholar point of view, you might want to actually focus on leveling up Triple R XC, just because I can see that this will be one of those that will sell for a pretty high price comparing, let's say, similar high level axes. Then yeah, Triple R will be pretty good. Okay, then the other I should talk about is the eggshell and turnip. So eggshell, of course, is just um, the shield will scale with the plus 5 as well. So it just gives you plus 5 more shield on the Axie and of course on the summons. Turnip is now one that I would say stands out from the other hybrid card. The other hybrid card I would say is pretty underwhelming, but for turnip it yeah, still doesn't really quite work, right? Even with the recent changes. But maybe with this plus 5, when you evolve it, it could work. Who knows? But it's still very tough to use hybrid classes because they don't really focus on doing one thing, but they do multiple things. So for turnip, plus 5 really means plus 5 heal, plus 5 shield, and also uh, plus 5 in terms of the rocket damage, right? And you do 4 rocket damage, so effectively it's a plus 30 on turnip. So yeah, of course, turnip in itself, before evolving, is already doing a lot of effects, I would say, per energy, right? Because it heals, it shields, and it deals damage. Yeah, but this plus 5 might be able to push turnip really, maybe viable. Who knows? Okay, finally, we have those bonus stats that are not plus 5 and plus 10. So first one is Purge. Purge go from 15 to 18. I must say it might be relevant in rare era or something where you don't have like the epic charm, or maybe there's some certain HP threshold that it might not meet, and this evolved change from 15 to 18 might get it over the threshold. But usually for Purge team, it's not really about the pure damage, but more about surviving long enough to actually get the combo off, I feel. So maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't really done the calculation. I don't think this free change makes too much of a difference, especially in like Epic and Mystic era. Okay, and then we have the two energy attack cards, a lot of the two energy attack cards get a plus 20 buff, which makes sense. It's because it's effectively a plus 10 per energy kind of buff. Uh, but one thing to note is that for Sando, it only gets plus 15 because Sando is just so good, and of course it scales, and so that's why Sando only gets plus 15. Um, and then we have Mavis. So Mavis is something that I do want to talk about a lot, just because it, yeah, I don't know why, but they give Mavis a plus 15 buff when you evolve it, which is pretty crazy. Just because now, well, when you evolve it, then it basically has a base attack of 55, which is, a normal attack card, maybe slightly underwhelming, but it has the additional effect of producing a summon, right? So that's already a pretty big thing. But that summons actually deals another 55 damage to the closest enemy. So that is already one cost 110 damage. Yeah, and you have a summon. And let's not forget that Mavis has, of course, still has the primary effect or the original effect, which is gaining energy fragment and then opponent losing energy fragment. So yeah, this is a lot in one card, and just really, yeah, a lot of effects, and yeah, 110 damage is, yeah, hard to not evolve it if you're running Mavis. I would say it's just like it adds so much to, yeah, at least, or it basically adds 30, at least 30 damage. Of course, if Mavis still stays alive after another turn, it will do another 55 damage. So it's, yeah, can be pretty crazy. Of course, this is just a base attack. You can also buff it with another power charm, I think, right? So yeah, Mavis, I can imagine, might actually get nerfed. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's just too strong. Or maybe they'll just nerf the evolve part just because, I'm not sure why. Is it plus 15? Why is it not plus 10 or whatever? Okay, finally we have the Nemo Tail. Nemo Tail, yeah, it just becomes a shield card when you evolve it. That just means, well, it's just an 8 shield, but still, it just means you can put on certain charms like White Sage that can only be put on shield cards. Okay, all right, then those are, I would say, the ones that are significant in terms of the effects of evolving. So let's actually step back and think about what are the potential effects on the meta and the market and player mindset. So I'll try to keep it short, but my speculation is that a lot of players might just be focusing on leveling up a few axes and focusing on playing maybe one or maybe a few archetypes to basically grind for AXP for specific axes, as opposed to before, where some players might just try different teams out by just buying things or buying axes from a marketplace. Just because now you there is quite a big incentive to level up your axes, and so you might want to just keep playing one particular team as opposed to trying many different axes out. So yeah, so that would definitely, of course, then affect the market, right? So instead of buying, like players buying new axes to try them out, it could be the case that the market will shift to just buying the floor to evolve parts, right? To get the material to evolve the parts, as opposed to buying for the axes parts to try different axes out. So we'll see whether how that will change. Yeah, but we'll have to see when the season comes, and whether it'll lead to a increase or decrease in the overall market volume. Okay, then the other things to think about is really more about the pace of the meta. Of course, now, especially for pro players, right, where they would want to have the best axes to climb the highest, and now there's an additional layer of what being an optimal axis, right? So before it's really just about the parts, and of course, and the cards, and the class, but now it's also about the level, and this is where, yeah, it might make it harder for pro players, is because there will be a lot fewer high level axes that can be evolved for certain parts, and so definitely it will make it a lot more costly to get better axes, with especially with high level. Either players might have to, or pro players might have to, so-called pay scholars to grind for them in terms of AXP and leveling up. Yeah, or of course, buying from the marketplace will probably be a lot more expensive if you want high level axes with very specific cards. So this definitely will make the meta, I would say, be a bit slower in terms of like the change in the meta, right? So it'll be harder for players to shift from one team to another because there will be fewer high-level Axies that are available out there, and so it just makes it harder to change teams, basically. So in terms of casual players, I definitely think that well, Parts Evolution will make the game more engaging in terms of you have a sense of progression, right? And that will definitely have an effect on having a deeper connection between players and their axes. Right, so you have an incentive to really want to play with your favorite axes as opposed to okay, just buying one from the marketplace again every season. So you might want to stick with a certain axis. But the downside is that it definitely disincentivizes players to try out different archetypes. It's because you would want to just play with the axes that you already have leveled up, or you would want to level up, and so yeah, it basically makes it maybe definitely more repetitive from the player experience point of view if the players choose to just focus on leveling up a certain axis as opposed to trying new teams out. So yeah, again, this we'll have to see how players react to this change, or how actually players will go about dealing with this leveling up versus trying different teams out kind of balance. Yeah, and of course, this will be different between, let's say, casual players versus pro players, or even just new players versus returning players versus existing players. We'll all have probably different mindsets. Anyway, so I think yeah, that is pretty much it in terms of the what I want to say about parts evolution. So now I'm really just having fun theory crafting, looking at what can work with parts evolution. But of course, something to remember is that they can always change. So everything in these spreadsheets can change at least before the start of the season. So keep that in mind. And oh yeah, I guess one more thing is that I do feel like parts evolution, if you step even further back, right, to think about the longevity of the game, I do feel like it is going to be a plus in terms of being able to add more features or adds more game mechanics, because now that you for each card you actually have can have two different effects, right? One for the original effect and one for the evolved effect. So they might be able to add in additional mechanics or something which is specific for the evolved parts. So yeah, this allows the game to continue to develop even more, just basically increasing the design space, I would say, for the game design team. So yeah, so definitely look forward to more changes with the evolve part, not just with stat change, but hopefully those stat change might also add in other sort of effect that are more interesting. But I would say that will probably be for sometime in the future, in however many seasons to go. Okay, so that's it for today, and I'll see you in the next video.